Adam Wardzinski. Simple question. Jiu-jitsu athlete, of course. Husband, father, and a rock star in the making.
When did you first hear about butterfly guard?
I don't know if I heard it at first. That was the thing that we did. The kind of opening up the guard. When I started, mostly we played close guard, half guard. So we consider when we open the guard, we put our hooks in, or we put our feet on our opponent bicep, which was a spider guard. So I didn't heard much about butterfly guard. It wasn't like a thing when we've been training. You have to remember that we've been training in Poland 2010, so the time was a little bit wild still here, and there was not so many sources of knowledge. The YouTube was very limited, so we just open up the guard and we put our hooks in, and that's it. After few years, once we get more into technical aspects, then somehow butterfly guard name came up. But that was the thing we did. We just open up the guard. That's what we've been calling it. At first, at the very beginning, white belt days, I was only playing close guard, and I was always shooting for either triangle or armbar. Once I discovered butterfly guard for myself, it felt very comfortable for me, because at the same time I could keep my opponent close, but he wasn't that heavy for me. It's very easy for heavy and big people to stall the fight and to just stay on top of you in a close guard, not doing much. In a butterfly guard, you can make the whole thing a little bit more dynamic. So I started to use that as a blue belt, and there are some YouTube videos of me playing a butterfly guard at the blue belt days. It didn't look very good, to be honest, but this is the process. You're polishing your technique, making it better and better. And for me, it was step by step. First, it was a good time to start with a butterfly guard, because everyone was passing on their knees, so it was very easy to access with those hooks, put them in, and work for the sweep. Then everyone started to pass on their feet, so automatically I started to learn how to deal with that problem. And for me, everything was step by step, and it felt maybe it's just my point of view, but it felt the evolution of jiu-jitsu in Poland was also going like this. It was kind of going in my favor. So I didn't have to deal with all the problems at once. It was problem after problem after problem. So yeah, like I said, little steps. And once I get to the black belt level, a lot of new problems came up, obviously. But when I look back, I'm a black belt now for 6 years. There's so many things I learned, even by being a black belt, and this is amazing. Even though you're getting that belt that you kind of dream of, or maybe not, but you're getting it after 10 years or something, 6 years, 8 years, still there's so many things to learn. I think I very naturally I stick to the thing that was comfortable for me. Butterfly guard was always comfortable, always felt comfortable, but I think I didn't put much attention to the whole thing until I reached a brown belt level, and then somehow I thought all right, so I'm playing that butterfly guard game all the time. So maybe we should put a little bit more attention into that, and not only my attention, but also people around me, those people attention, because that's actually, that may be a good product to sell, because for us as jiu-jitsu athletes, we have to sell ourselves one way or another. We sell seminars, we sell privates, we sell DVDs. Teaching is a part of being an athlete in jiu-jitsu. So I felt hey, let's make a product out of butterfly guard. It may be a good thing for me in the future. It may make my life a little bit easier if I'm gonna tell people around me like, hey, I'm playing that game. Look at this, I'm sweeping in that manner, you know. So yeah, this is how it was, brown belt. So I have no idea what's the origin of that name. I think because like when you sit in a butterfly guard, your legs spread to the side with your knees outside, form like butterfly wings. But I don't know. I'm just guessing. Maybe because the opponent is flying over you. Maybe he's the butterfly, not you. Uh, how I would call that different. I heard a name hook guard. It's very accurate, I think, because actually in butterfly guard we were working with hooks all the time, different types of controls, different hooks. So I think hook guard would be very accurate. So until purple belt, the main source of techniques for me were my coaches, which is like Jiu-Jitsu pioneer Karol Matuszak and Andrzej Stoltzman. Back then, when I started, he was a purple belt, but he was already instructor in my in Karol's gym. So he was actually the first guy I met on the mat. He was my first coach, and they've been both the main source of my of techniques for me and of like insight about jiu-jitsu. Back in the days, there wasn't so many instructionals. Of course, there was few, but also like remember that we're talking about Poland, not US. In US, everything was I guess a little bit more accessible at that time. In Poland, still not so much. There was few instructionals. There was YouTube videos as well, of course, but YouTube is not easy to. It's not the best source to learn. So you can pick thing or two. I think like proper YouTube materials are coming right now because people are starting to like understand that it's a nice way to promote yourself if you have a nice YouTube channel. But back in the days, it was uh, very like how to say non-systematic, and mostly you could just see couple techniques, not like the system. So yeah, I stick to my coaches. I always like to learn live more than from tapes. But then at the like I would say like the last period of a brown belt, like the yeah 2016, and when I become a black belt. Those are the days I started to learn, even though I still learn a lot from like Alan Finfu, Checkmate guys, Bushesha, Thiago Sa, Leo. But yeah, I started to look more into instructionals. And yeah, right now the instructionals are like main source of the new things I'm working on and main source of like ideas for me. To be honest, I didn't had an idol like this. I mean, like, there are people in the sport I admire. I admire what they did in the sport, but to be honest, I have a hard time like admiring the athletes. Uh, Usually, I try to look for inspiration in like different parts uh, of the like how to say like maybe like music, people from music, people from like acting, their stories, but I rarely get into athlete stories. I rarely get into like jiu-jitsu people stories. I like more of an outside of jiu-jitsu world stories, and then I'm taking some of those things and I see some common things in these, and I like to take those into jiu-jitsu.
Do you consider yourself as ambassador of butterfly guard or this kind of style game?
I I think that yeah, for some time there was only Marcelo Garcia, but then he stopped competing, and there was like nobody really playing hoop game, uh, like not in a like mainstream way. And then I think I started to work to put it on the on the on the picture again, and I'm working constantly to do that. And right now I feel like butterfly guard is a little bit more popular because no gi is getting really big. It's a big part of no gi, obviously. But in the gi, I feel it's getting more and more popular as well. It's coming back, so I'm happy with that. Maybe I am like an ambassador for sure. I'm working to get to that spot and working to like so people can call me that.
How is your butterfly different from other people on top level up?
Yeah, so butterfly guard is usually considered the guard when you're like seated. I started to play more of a version that connects with all sorts of like open guards when my upper body is on the mat. So I call it lazy butterfly guard. So my legs, once my opponent knees are on the ground, my legs are in, like in a classic butterfly guard, but my upper body is on the mat, giving me more possibilities and more flexibility, and also easy access to like classic position. So this is what I haven't seen from anyone, but I'm constantly getting like messages and videos from people that they started to play with that game and they having nice success being able to submit and sweep people. So I think we're starting a little trend here. I call it lazy butterfly guard because you're like, instead of sitting up, which you can consider more like proactive position, you're laying down. So maybe you can kind of see it from the outside. You can see it more as a like defensive position that maybe you just want to like kind of lay down and rest or whatever. But it looks less active, I would say, comparing to seated position. That's why I call it lazy butterfly guard. But to be honest, you can't be lazy in those positions. You have to be very active, especially when your opponent is pushing forward, trying to pass your guard, because the distance is very close. So if you make a mistake, every mistake is like cost you double in a close distance, because then your opponent is heavy on top of you, he's smashing you, putting your legs aside. So you have to work double to get out from the bad spot and recover the guard. So I would say it's a natural way for me to play guard, but it's not like very like energy saving game. Of course, like once you get good in any game, you know how to save an energy, how to make a little pit stop here and there where you can rest. But I wouldn't say it's like very like energy efficient, because you have to stay, especially when your opponent is like pushing forward, you have to stay like very active all the time.
Do you think that you are the best butterfly guard player right now?
I think I don't like to say names like best or not best, whatever. For sure, I'm the most active butterfly guard player right now, because I'm competing everywhere. I'm competing IBJJF, major tournaments, opens, AGP opens, no gi, gi. I'm everywhere. So for sure, I'm the most active butterfly guard player. If I'm the best, I don't know. That's not a question for me. I'm the best I can be.
My name is Andrzej Stolzman, and together with Adam, I'm the head coach of Checkmate Poznań here. Okay, I actually met him the first time when he joined the classes, because back then I was a purple belt and I was teaching classes in our former academy under our former professor. So this is how I met him for the first time, and we've been working since then. First as a teacher-student, and then when we established Checkmate Poznań as a business partners as well. In the beginning, he was like just like the other guys, but then when he realized that the jiu-jitsu was his path, that he would like to do it professionally, then he completely like devoted to what he was doing. And this is what I think distinguishes champions from other competitors, that this willing of sacrifice so many things, especially also in his private life, to achieve the goal. So he was always a hard-working person, always first on the mat, doing as many trainings as he could. Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, the hard work always beats the talent. I'm not saying he's not talented. He is actually, but if you could define the talent as well, if you ask me if he's move-wise very talented, I would say that his brother is even more talented in this area. But he's, for example, very adaptive, so he can easily adapt to any situation in a fight. Yeah. So that's what it is. I think it was Gruber that he started to work with the butterfly, like focusing on butterfly. Because as a white belt, actually, he worked a lot as in a closed guard, because that was our system to teach closed guard first, because it was like easy and safe position for the beginners, and then he submitted everyone with triangles and arm bars, which was funny. And then after a while, when we introduced new types of guard, then he chose the butterfly. I remember the funny situation once when he was a purple belt, that he was already very good in a butterfly guard, and me and my former professor asked him, to play with a butterfly, and we will try to pass his guard. Even then, he swept us one by one. Yeah. Like for example, 10 attempts, I managed to pass like 3 times, and otherwise he swept me with the butterfly suit. Yeah.
Who is your inspiration outside of jiu-jitsu and the music?
Oh, I have couple. I mean, like not inspiration, but like reading stories of like Slash from Guns N' Roses, Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath, or Lemmy from Motorhead. Like I like those autobiographies from early days of rock and roll, like 60s, 70s, 80s. Like I like to see the struggle, how those people are struggling, and I see similarity in jiu-jitsu. Like when you're starting, you're struggling, you're sleeping on a mat, you never sleep in nice places, you eat like in the cheap spots just to like get some healthy food, but never it's never too good. And you're always spending everything on your gear and on the trips, so you're basically always broke. And I see a lot of similarities, and I like to take inspiration how those people overcome those things, and then how they overcame things when, for example, they got some popularity and they had to learn how to deal with that. Those are the nice things that I can compare to jiu-jitsu world, and I take a lot of inspiration from.
Okay, so as we are talking about the music, what's it mean for you rock and roll as a jiu-jitsu athlete?
Well, for me, it's a lifestyle, like jiu-jitsu. It's same is with rock and roll. Of course, you can be a guy who's just like casually listen to rock and roll at his couch at home, and that's it. But you can dive into it like 100% and go for the concerts, go for the shows, go for like festivals, dig deep into the music, always try to like see a new band and discover new band, and you're digging into those stories of people from the music industry. I find it interesting, and it's the same with jiu-jitsu. You know, you can be a guy who's like casually training like 3 times a week, and that's it. He not putting much attention into jiu-jitsu when he's outside of the mat, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay because like people have different level of like attention they want to give to jiu-jitsu. I accept that, but you can also dive really deep, and you can like travel with friends, camps, seminars, competition. You can travel the world with jiu-jitsu. You can drop by to any gym you want, and most of the time people are gonna be very friendly to you. So that's a lifestyle. They're both like lifestyle, and I love to uh, like connect those two. You know, I love traveling. Whenever I'm somewhere like teaching seminar, having a camp, even sometimes after a competition, I like to see who's playing in town, go for a concert, have like a good memory. You know. So yeah, trying to connect those as much as I can. Of course, like rock and roll is always second place, jiu-jitsu is the first place. It's always a priority, but I'm trying to take as much as possible from both.
Okay, so this reminds me of something. You told me once that if you love something, you do it 100%.
Yeah,
Can you like expand that thought?
yeah. If that's the thing I believe in. If you love something, is if something's your passion, you're doing 100%. You know, this is how I am. Like I'm 100% or nothing. So this it's very simple. It's very simple. Like when you fall in love into something, you want to do it like every day. Your thoughts are there like most of the time. This is a true passion, you know, and it's like it's hard when you love something to that point. It's hard to resist to not like really dive deep into that. You know, this is how I feel about things I love, and this is how I feel like about commitment to the things I love. I can give my 100% to those things, and I'm good with that. I'm good with any like sacrifice I have to make towards that, because at the end of the days, it's like it's not a big sacrifice if you're doing what you love. You know, it's just like you just have to put some things aside, and that's it. That's life. You know, you make choices.
Okay, so it's a hard question always to choose, but first in mind, favorite band.
Favorite band? I would say Black Sabbath. My journey with rock and roll and heavy metal started with Black Sabbath when I was like in primary school. So always gonna go with Black Sabbath. I just love them. Any lineup, it's gonna be like always the first band I really like met from heavy metal. I put a story in the internet about like my first music experience, that my family was not into music at all. We've been listening like radio shit at home, and I was always like, please turn off the music. I don't like music, because it was like pop music, like the hits that like just came up. But then when I got into like my second primary school, because we moved, so I had to change the school, and there was a guy very like looking different than all the people, like long hair, very like clothes. He put zero attention to his clothes. He looked like totally like hippie. He gave me his Discman. He said, listen to this. It's Black Sabbath, man. Like putting your fingers into electricity socket. Like the electricity was like in my whole body. Never heard anything like that. And from that point, I fell in love in Black Sabbath.
Okay, so that's interesting. Like you have more competitions or more concerts in your life?
Competitions for sure. Competitions. There was a point in my life when I was like competing like three three weekends out of four in a month. So I would say competition. For a long time, when actually that's kind of like interesting. I think for a long time, long period, like late 2010 to like late 2015. I haven't been to any concert because at that time I was like totally into jiu-jitsu, and all the funds that I had went straight to jiu-jitsu, like traveling, competing, and I was always broke. So I had no money to go for a concert. So I was just like, all right, jiu-jitsu's first. Let's see, maybe in the future. But then when I started to do a little bit better, 2015, late 2015, I started to like earn some decent money from jiu-jitsu. Then I came back to the concert in a full swing. I always believe I can be a pro athlete. You can never predict where you're gonna get. You can always like fail on the way. You can always like end up not achieving things you wanted to achieve. You can always end up not being as great as you wanted to be, but it doesn't mean that you're not gonna make a nice career and the good living. You know, this is the thing I always, like I said before, I always try to compare like music industry to jiu-jitsu, you know. So there are bands that are making great career, but they are never able to sell like the huge stadium, but they can still play in some decent places, like gathering a couple thousand people. And that's the thing about jiu-jitsu. You don't have to be the greatest of all time. You just have to do your best and see what's gonna happen, and you're gonna find out what's gonna be your way. If you're gonna do good as a competitor, all right, you're gonna take that chance, that road. If you're gonna find out on the way you're not a good competitor, but maybe you're a very good coach, all right, you're gonna get into that way. And if maybe you're not good in like building up the academy, but you're making decent video materials and people love it, then you're going that way. You know, there's so many ways right now that you can make a living and career in jiu-jitsu that you don't really have to be an athlete, but I always wanted to be one, you know, so I always work to be like as good as possible, compete as much as possible, always level up my game. And I remember one time I was at the brown belt. I remember talking with my friend, and he was like, you never know what's gonna happen once you reach the black belt. You know, sometimes you can never make it to like a major competition podium as a black belt. You never know. And I was like, no way, I'm gonna make it. I have to make it. I have to make it. And I'm glad I make it a couple times. I think I just have like infinite source of motivation because I never feel like I'm burned off for jiu-jitsu, you know. Of course I'm having better days, worse days, sometimes I'm feeling good, sometimes not so good, but this is normal, you know. But the thing is like once you understand you're working and it's your job, it's not like you're not thinking like, maybe I shouldn't go to the mats, maybe I'm gonna stay home. Well, who does that when you're working? When you're working, you don't have that choice. You just like wake up every day and you go to the job. And this is the way I think about it. Like, all right, some days you're gonna wake up full of energy and you're gonna go like, oh yeah, let's go train, super pumped up. Some days you're gonna be like beaten from last evening training. You're gonna wake up sore, but still you're gonna go to the mat and you're gonna give your 100%. Sometimes your 100% is not what it usually is. Sometimes giving your 40% will be your 100% at that day, because that's not the best day of your life. So that's the thing. I'm always trying to give my 100%. And motivation is a thing that comes and goes. But I'm just having like good habits and work ethic, and I'm really not thinking much if I wanna train today or not. I'm just waking up and I'm going to training. To be honest, I can't say I ever had like hard period. Like, I had some heartbreaking losses, I had some great victories, but I never went through like hard period. I can say that my life was like miserable and I have to build up from that. No, my life was always like okay at least. And I was always sticking tight to jiu-jitsu. So I think, like, nothing can be bad if you're sticking to the thing you love. I can't say I went through something like very like a bad period. Like, maybe I'm not too vulnerable to things like that. I'm just like, sticking to the things I do every day, sticking to my routine, sticking to things I love, and that's it.
Okay, so you never have a big injury.
No, never had a big injury, but yeah, that's many, many reasons for that. I take a lot of focus, I put a lot of focus on my recovery, good food, healthy sleep, healthy habits. My style on the mat is also like very safe for my joints. I don't expose my like knees, legs so much, and you never know. Something can happen in the future. You never know that it can be an accident. But for now, no severe injuries. I had some small ones, but they never kept me away from the mat.
Did you ever feel on the way burn out?
No, never, never. Like I said before, I'm constantly motivated. I have better days and worse days, but I'm motivated and I just stick to my habits. When I'm out of like motivation, I wouldn't say motivation. Sometimes I'm just out of energy. If I'm out of energy, I just stick tight to my habits, and that's it. This is how I pass the tough periods.
Okay.
Of course, I'm a competitive person. I'm competing for like 13 years right now, and I don't know. As a black belt, I think I have like close to 300 matches, something like that. So of course, I'm competitive. Uh, I'm always looking for new challenges. Even sometimes when I'm thinking like, oh, I would like to rest a little bit, and then I see competition coming up, and I'm like, oh no, I can't miss this one, and I end up signing up. Uh, so yeah, I'm competitive, that's for sure. Uh, my preparation is very different before the day of the tournament and during the like at the day of the tournament. Before the day of the tournament, I like to like see how the like first second of the fight goes. I like to see myself on the podium. I like to visualize things like me winning. But during the day of the competition, I just like to stay present. I stay in the exact moment, acting now to the things that coming now, not letting my mind to go like too much forward, because sometimes your mind's tricky, and especially under the pressure, it can like drag you to like a dark place when you start to think like how you gonna like what you're gonna say when you lose to this guy or that guy, what you're gonna do when you lose, what people gonna say, and that's just like bullshit. You have to leave it and you have to stay present. That's the thing you have to. I mean, that's the thing I stick to when I'm at the competition.
But this is something you needed to learn, or you was like this from the beginning, from the first competition?
You're always learning, you're always growing, and you you learn to train better on the mat. You grow in that area, and you learn how to deal with pressure, emotions, how to deal with stress on the competition as well. And those are the things that you're like always making. You can always make it better. You can always develop in that area, and this is what I do as well. I'm constantly rethinking my ways. I'm constantly like working, and I believe that in any area of your life, if you stop working, the things are getting bad. This is they're like when when you're when you stop cleaning in your kitchen, after like few days it's gonna get like super dirty out of the sudden. You don't know even how that happened. And this is the thing with like with everything in your life. Once you stop putting focus into something, once you stop working on something, you're just like going down on that. So you have to like constantly work, constantly think about those things, rethink them, exercise, and grow.
Would you train so hard if there was no competition to test yourself?
I think it's hard to say, but I think uh, like the pandemic time was a good time for the test. There was no competition around, and nobody knew if they're gonna be back or not. But I was just like sticking to my routine. I kept training hard, and I was just doing my thing. It kept me sane. The biggest achievement I got is like just making it to the top of the world, being like among like top players. That's the biggest thing, because when I started as a white belt, I was like my dream was for to see my name, to see my picture in like a Polish jiu-jitsu medias, like mentioning me or writing a little bit about me winning something. That was my dream at the beginning. Like I thought it would be nice to see myself there. Right now, I'm like in like rankings. I got some titles on my account, and I'm like giving interviews. So that's the biggest achievement, being able to get to the point where I am right now. Still aiming for more, of course, but still it's nice to be here, and yeah, going through that whole journey.
As you become European champ, is World Championship title your highest goal right now?
Yeah, of course. World Championship is always my main goal, and that's what I'm aiming for. Hopefully, I can fulfill it soon. The biggest obstacle, I think, I I can't complain, to be honest. But I think that the obstacle for Polish people in general, Polish athletes, is that Poland economically is a little bit behind like Western countries. So any trip you make, any competition you have to fly to, any expense that you have to spend on jiu-jitsu is hurting your pocket more, because you're just earning less. So I think this is a thing that was like kind of an obstacle, but still not not anything that we couldn't get over with. And yeah, I would say that this is the obstacle for most of the athletes in Poland, because jiu-jitsu is a sport where federations are like private companies, so you have to like invest a lot to be able to make a career, you know. So a lot of people are not ready to make that investment, or they have no funds to make that investment. I think every father wants to be a figure for his son, and of course I wanna show him like my values and my way of living and what I'm doing there, what I wanna achieve. But my main goal is to give him a good start for his life, and that's my big motivation like when I'm going into like competition right now. It's my big motivation that I'm not doing those things just for myself anymore. I'm doing that for my whole family, my wife, my kid.
What can you recommend for someone with a big passion to the sport and being on the top? Someone like you 10 years ago.
Just stick to jiu-jitsu no matter what. Show up on the mats. uh, there's gonna be like better times in your life and some very bad times in your life, like on like personal level, in your personal life, and just keep showing up. Bad times gonna pass, and you don't wanna waste time, you know. So stick to jiu-jitsu, stick to the mats, and a lot of problems are easier to solve uh, when your mind is fresh, when you're after the training. So just keep going, keep showing up, and everything's gonna be alright.
Okay,